system onto the show by way of Zoom. Good morning, Juan.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
I guess did you ever get a 4.9 evaluation when you were superintendent of GDOE?
You know, I think it's best we not discuss that.
He had a wonderful relationship with the board.
I know it.
Let's just say that I got my sense of satisfaction from parents and teachers more than anything else. We'll leave it at that.
All right, boom.
Boom, moving on. we usually don't start our interviews with a mic drop, but okay. Yeah, you guys have also made the announcement that you're going to be starting Catholic school classes. So we'll just go ahead and give you the floor, Juan, and just take it away.
Yeah, so the reason I reached out to call, I don't want to give Chris a big head, but when I responded to an email message this morning, I thought of him because I just finalized arrangements for some hand washing sinks to be finalized at San Vicente School. And, you know, Chris is always yelling at us to wash our hands. So, yeah, we're gonna give those San Vicente kids a chance to wash their hands as often and as much as they want. Although I did talk to parents last night and told them if we didn't have enough sinks and the kids take their time, wash their hands, that's all they'll do all day. So that's why we're increasing the number of sinks. Because I've watched kids wash their hands and they could do it forever. Right. So we're working on that. So most of the schools have had plans to start on certain days, and most of those plans have not changed. So Father Duenas is the first school to start on Monday, and they actually are having orientation this week, and they're ready to go. And some of the other schools, the last schools, will start on the week of the 17th, only because they're having even more extensive orientation, both with students and families in the next week or two. But the schools will start, no pushback. Parents are ready. The schools are ready. Most of us have invested in a lot of equipment and a lot of supplies just to make sure the kids are going to be safe and healthy in the schools. And but more importantly, and when I talk about what I'm doing with San Vicente, it's not that I'm favoring the school in any way, but I'm currently also serving as the acting principal for San Vicente until we find a principal. And I assured the parents at a couple of meetings this week that we will spend the first maybe weeks, maybe even month, helping the students get adjusted to being back in school. That's what the beginning of school is going to be like. These kids have been out of school for 4 months, 4.5 months. And while the academic education is critical, I think making sure that they're comfortable with being back in school and we relieve some of their anxiety about COVID is probably more important than making sure they can spell the word onomatopoeia.
I don't think
Which Chris can do, of course.
You can. I wanted to ask about, the Guam Department of Education. They received the Education Stabilization Funds, and a portion of that money went to different private schools. Did you guys receive any of that money? And if so, what did you guys use it for?
The way that was set up, Sabrina, is not that we would get any of the money, but we've been working very closely with federal programs for us to get the services that would come with those funds.
I see.
So the way the CARES Act money was set up, the local education agency will determine how we will get that money, how we get those services. And fortunately for us on Guam, the Federal Programs Office and the Department of Education is granting to all the non-public schools an equal distribution of the services. So if public school kids are getting $1,000 worth of services, non-public school kids are getting the same. Now, there have been challenges in trying to get the funds actually expended. The grant award notification went out May 28th, but we're still struggling to see any of the services coming from those funds. So, a lot of the expenditures we're making, like the sinks, are actually part of that request, but we're not sure it's going to come in time for the start of school. So we're just taking that into our own hands.
Mm-hmm. Are you keeping track of enrollment numbers at these at these Catholic schools, and whether you're seeing a drop as a result of what's happening?
We are seeing a drop. There are two reasons, I think, for the drop. The main reason is financial. I think especially with those families who've lost employment since the start of the pandemic, the onset of the isolation. The other reason is for some schools, enrollment is limited because the schools are only enrolling those kids they can fit in the classrooms according to the set protocols. So an example is that San Vicente, again, elementary classrooms will only have 15 students and middle school classrooms will only have 19 students, so they could fit properly in the classrooms.
Right. Is there any one standard, I guess, that you've set for every school? Like, is it mandatory? Everybody will have to wear masks or face shields or anything like that?
Right. So we first sent a set of generalized protocols to the Physicians Advisory Group and the Department of Public Health, and those have been approved. And so every school has to then figure out how they're going to implement those protocols. And the masks and the social distancing and the reduction of kids congregating, all of those are part of the protocols, the sanitizing. And then schools will decide how they're going to do it. Some schools are having families bring the kids to school at different times, so we don't have everybody showing up at the same time. Some schools are not having kids go to the cafeteria for lunch, but having either the kids pick up their lunch or lunch being delivered to the classrooms. Different things like that we're doing so that we are complying with all of the protocols.
What about transportation?
So I've been in discussion with the majority. Well, I'll start with saying the majority of the students in the Catholic schools are brought to and from school by their parents or grandparents or godparents or aunts and uncles. I'm amazed at the commitment to getting kids to school. But for those who are taking the buses, I've been in discussions with Franklin Taitano and Vince Ariola at DPW, and we're trying to come up with a proposal to present to the Department of Public Health that would be acceptable so that we're not tripling or quadrupling the number of buses needed. But health and safety is important. We want to make sure that even if students showed up at the bus without a mask, we're going to give the bus drivers some extra masks so those kids would just come on board. I overheard a comment about taking the kids' temperatures. That probably is not a good idea unless we want the kids to spend, an extra half hour on the highway before they even get on the bus. So we're still working out those details, and hopefully we'll work something out with DPW, so that's going to be ready for the start of schools.
Okay. All right. Was there anything else that you wanted to get out?
Just that we've announced when the schools are opening. I want to encourage families again to check in with their schools about orientations, ask a lot of questions. My sense is that some families are anxious, but some families are also ready for their kids to come to school. So We're ready and make it happen.
I wanted to ask, this is a kind of a little different question. So we have a bunch of, and I'm specifically focused on the seniors because I have a son who's going to be a senior. Mentally, what would your advice be to some of these students who it's just time, we got to go back to business as usual. So how do they wrap their mind around going off of this COVID and dealing with everything and then having to just boom start? And, especially with senior year, you're really focused on doing what you can do to attract the attention of colleges. So if you could, just for some of the maybe the older students, and not just for the Catholic schools, I mean, you got experience on the public school side. So what would be your advice to those kids?
First of all, Chris, I would remind the seniors to wash their hands. And then secondly, I would encourage them to keep track of the experiences they're going through. There's no doubt that next year during the college application process, there are going to be hordes of essays about the pandemic, right? And so for the students, if they keep track of their genuine feelings, if they keep track of their genuine adjustments, I think those sincere efforts to make sure they deal with it. I mean, this is a chance for students, especially seniors in high schools, to show that, yep, they're ready for the challenges of a college education because they've already been taking care of whatever needed to be taken care of here on Guam or in their homes. Many of them have taken on the roles of watching out for their brothers and sisters at home or relatives at home. And they ought to be fully aware of how they've changed their lives because of the pandemic, so that when they're, besides having great grades and doing well on the tests, on standardized tests, to also be able to articulate how their experiences have actually had a genuine and significant impact. And they really need to make it genuine. They need to, because there will be a lot of essays about that. And I would encourage them, even though opportunities this year for seniors is going to be limited. If I were the seniors, I would find those experiences that are going to be the most worthwhile to the people that they're going to serve, or the greatest learning experiences for themselves, and not to do something just because it's going to look good on a college application.
Right. Well, thank you for that, Dr. Juan.
Thanks, Juan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stay safe.
Thank you.
Keep us posted and wash your hands.
I will. Yeah, I definitely will wash my hands. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, take care.
Okay, so Sabrina, go ahead. You got some info?
Yeah, I'm just going to read off the start date, the first day of classes for the Catholic Schools Academy of Our Lady of Hagatnya.